there, it's Nicole for lawnfawn, and today I'm going to share this see-through For You Dear acetate card. This is created with an actual acetate card, and what's so great about this is the For You Dear stamp set is perfect because there is a front and a back image, meaning that all these cute little reindeer heinies, and then of course the one reindeer that's facing front, when opened up, they've got the whole other view on the inside. There's a front and a back. So this is a great stamp set if you want to do some sort of see-through design. I love this stamp set. I think they're so cute that they can hang over, and you can kind of create a great inside out type of card with this stamp set. I'm going to start by stamping the deer for this stamp set. When I originally started this, I really thought I would just use the deer and do the deer all the way across my border. And as I got to working on my card, one, I realized I needed more deer. I only did 3 to begin with. I need a front and a back for each. And 2, I thought it would be fun to mix in my little polar bear into the mix, just because they are so stinking cute. You could definitely do all bears if you wanted to. I think it would even be cute maybe to do all bears and not do a holiday type card like I did here. This is obviously a holiday card, but you could do the little bears and maybe stamp the little hearts on their behinds and color them in rainbow color. There's just lots and lots of things you could do here. So I am stamping all of my deer on a scrap piece of paper here, and then I'm going to start coloring them in. Really pretty simple coloring here. I'm not using a ton of markers. The colors I did use for the deer are all shown across the bottom of the screen. The lighter part of the face is E50 and 53 with a little R00 for the cheek. I only colored the one cheek on the deer. The other one is really, he's kind of almost turned slightly to the side, so you're not going to get that effect really. And then for the body of the deer, I thought I would try E53, and that was not the right color. So I went ahead and went in with E55 as my base for the rest of the deer. And then I will pull in E57 and just a tiny bit of E59 to darken up some of those areas on the deer. I'm only going to show the coloring really of one frontal version of the deer and a back version of the deer. All of the deer are colored exactly the same, so I didn't really see the need to keep all of that in the video since it's just repetition. The insides of the ears are a little R00, and the antlers are the same colors as the lighter parts on the cheeks with E50 and E53. Before I color in the back sides, I grabbed a little heart, and this is from, I believe it is, let me double check here, the Here We Go, a-waddling stamp set. And I just like the shape of this heart in this stamp set. There are little open hearts in tons of lawnfawn stamp sets. So if you're looking for one, just flip through all of your stamp sets. You will probably find one. Maybe even a solid one. You could go ahead and color these completely, stamp a little solid heart and emboss it with red embossing powder or gold embossing powder or white, whatever you have. That is another option for the little heart. You could also leave it off altogether. I don't know what it is, but I think it's kind of funny to have the little hearts on their behinds. So I usually add one because there's enough space and I think they're kind of cute. The darkest color here is E59, which I will color in the hooves. And then just blend in a little bit of that darker color in certain areas to darken up some of the shadows and things. Now, for the rest of the card, to put it all together, I'm going to kind of skip around. We'll come back to the polar bears as I get to that point and realize I need another little critter. But I have 2 strips that are 1 3/4 inches by 5.5 inches. And one is going to be for the front of the card and one for the inside. With an acetate card, if you don't want your adhesive to show, you have to back it with another piece of cardstock. So on one of these, I'm stamping the Happy Holidays greeting from the Toboggan Together stamp set, and I've stamped that with the Lawnfawn Chili Pepper ink. Above that, I'm going to take a greeting from the For You Dear stamp set that reads dropping by to say, and I will stamp that with some VersaFine black ink. So my greeting reads dropping by to say Happy Holidays. I really wanted to use one of the greetings from the For You Dear stamp set, and I love combining different fonts like this. Lots of new and old products from Lawnfawn in this card. Now, because I did not use a stitched die to die cut this panel, but I still wanted it to have a stitching line, there is a fantastic collection of dies that is a basic and something you may not think to use that often, but I absolutely love it. It's the stitched borders. So you can add a stitching line or a dotted line or a cross stitch line, all kinds of different borders to any strip of cardstock. You can even create some great stitched backgrounds if you want to. But I find it great when I'm creating a card like this because there's going to be a panel on the inside of the card that has the stitched design, and I want it to coordinate. So both the front and the back have that stitched border along the top. From the outside in stitched rectangles, I die cut 2 rectangles from this. Again, one for the inside of the card and one for the very back of the card to hide the adhesive. I've masked off just one side because I'm using the snow from the Snow Cool stamp set and stamping it across the top of this background, which what I love is this is going to be visible when the card is shut. It is also visible when you open up the card. And I've stamped that about 1.5 times. That's why I had a little masking paper there so that it didn't go all the way to the edge. I will heat set all of my little falling snow images. This is the perfect falling snow image. I've used it so many times. I absolutely love this. And I've used the Lawnfawn white embossing powder. I've mentioned it before, but this is my absolute favorite white embossing powder. Lawnfawn really nailed it with this. I'm a little picky about my white embossing powders, and this is bar none my favorite. I really love it. It's nice, bright white. I like to take my heat tool and hit the back of the panel to kind of help with warping. It'll help even it out and flatten it just a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and mask the top edge from the stitching line out and both sides. I'm not going to go ahead and mask the bottom because I'm not going to bring the ink all the way down to the bottom of the card. This is a couple reasons. I want it to gradually fade to lighter, and I want to leave enough white space so that I can handwrite a greeting to the recipient of this card, and it'll be a lot easier to write over white cardstock or very lightly inked cardstock rather than the dark blue. It would still be visible, yes, but I just went ahead and left it. I am inking over this for Embossed Resist with Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink. I think the Distress Oxide inks are fantastic on regular cardstock. This is Nina 110-pound weight cardstock, something I normally probably wouldn't use for Distress ink just because it's a little trickier. I tend to go to watercolor cardstock or Bristol Smooth cardstock, but the Distress Oxides are so forgiving. I absolutely love that about them, and I think they work really well on regular cardstock. So I use them a lot just with regular cardstock instead of using that specialty cardstock. You want to make sure and buff off any of the embossed areas. You can see that definitely brings out the white of the embossing powder, and I really buffed this really well, making sure any excess ink got wiped up. And then I can peel off my masking, and this leaves a nice white border all the way around. Just creates another element. It almost gives it a matted look to the card. I'm going to pull all my elements together now and start putting my card together. I've got my clear card base, and I'm going to start by attaching the front greeting border to the front of the card, lining it up with the bottom of the card, and then I want to add my inside panel, because this is just going to kind of help show where I'm putting everything. With a clear card, it can be a little tricky. I'm also going to back that front panel with the other strip that we added the stitching line to, and then later on I will put the back panel on. The best way I've thought of to adhere all my little critters is with the Xyron. This is going to put a nice coat of flat adhesive, but it's going to make them all over sticky, the whole back of them sticky, so that when I attach them, they aren't going to be popping up, if that makes sense. Plus, there's no liquid glue to come out from underneath and maybe mess up my acetate. So I thought of using the Xyron, and it worked perfectly. It worked exactly how I wanted it to. I'm going to pop the little guy here who is staring forward, the only one that is going to be looking outside of the card. And then I went ahead and put another one there. All you have to do is flip the card open and line up the inside pieces. How awesome is this? It just is so awesome that there is a front and a back to these. So not only when the card is closed do you see these cute little guys, but when you open it, you're not going to see any either plain cardstock if you've die cut another piece of cardstock to cover it up, but you're going to see cute colored critters. Now this is about the time I realized I didn't have enough to cover the whole front of my card. And I decided to go ahead and adhere all of my reindeer. And then I will take the polar bear and stamp him on some cardstock and add him to the card. So add this last little backside to the front. And I knew I wanted to add a red nose to one of the deer and decided to add it to the one facing forward. So I'm taking Autumn Red Nouveau Crystal Drops and adding just a nice little drop to the tip of his nose. For my bear, I am using some warm gray markers to color him. They're listed along at the bottom of the screen. Warm gray 5 is the darkest color, which I laid down first. Just in a few areas, I wanted to definitely have some shadowing. Then I blended that out with warm gray 1, and I'm going to go back over the whole bear then with warm gray 00. Now, at this point, I hadn't added the little heart to his hiney yet. I'm going to do that after I'm done coloring. The light gray is so gray, I can definitely color over it, no problem. So I'll grab the little heart, stamp that, and color that in with some red markers, just like I did for the deer. And the little pink cheeks on him show up really well, as I think, too. Little pink for the insides of his ears. I'm going to go ahead and die cut the bear then. And just like the deer, I'm going to run these through my Xyron and then place them with the back side on the front of the card and his little face on the inside. And I like to start with the face part because that tucks under a little bit so it looks like he's hanging over the edge. And that way I can line it up perfectly. So there's their little back sides. So stinking cute. And when you open it up, beautiful. You're not going to see anything ugly on the inside. They're nice finished critters. I wanted to add some bright red thought bubbles, and Lawnfawn has so many in lots of different stamp sets. So I'm taking a combination. The hello and the large heart thought bubble are from the Into the Woods stamp set. The smaller heart, round heart bubble is from Cheery Christmas, and the 2 rectangular heart thought bubbles are from Love Letters. I stamped those all with chili pepper ink, die cut them with the coordinating heart bubble dies. And then I'm sticking those on the inside of the card. So this is another element that is visible when you open up the card. There is not a front and a back to these images. So instead of putting them on the front and having to back them with white cardstock, Instead, they're a see-through element that you can see from the front of the card, but are still visible on the inside. I think it would even be cute to stamp a little reindeer down near the bottom edge of the inside of the card from any of the other Lawn Fawn stamp sets that feature a deer and have another little deer inside. I think that would be cute too. Finishing details, I'm going to add some glossy accents to the hearts on the back end of each of the animals. This gives them a nice little glossy finish, including the one on the inside. And then I'll take a black glazed pen to the eyes and nose, the eyes on the polar bear and the noses on all of the critters. And then add that rectangle to the back of my card for a nice finished look. You can always stamp that with a handmade by stamp that you might have in your collection, or handwrite your name on the back so the recipient knows that you made it. Here is my finished acetate card. This is a great see-through design using the For You Dear stamp set. Thanks for joining me today for this card featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies. For more information, please visit the Lawn Fawn blog. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.